Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. I'm Michael Labate, and I'm hosting today's live event on behalf of IT Ukraine Association. Today is also the celebration of International Women's Day, and our topic could not be more representative of the drive and ambition and achievements of women across the world, and especially those right now fighting in the front lines of Ukraine. 13 days ago, the lives of Ukrainians changed forever. Russia's President Vladimir Putin ordered the Russian Federation to conduct a so-called special military operation, which, in fact, turns out in truth to be a full-scale war against the military and civilians of Ukraine. And from that moment, and with great cost and sacrifice of many, the people of Ukraine and all over the world have come together to help to defend the very meaning of national sovereignty and democracy. So today's event is part one of a global conversation. We're hosting an online series for the next several weeks to learn how each of us can get involved to support Ukraine. In a moment, you're going to hear stories, personal stories from our guest speakers about their experience, about their journey, but most importantly, about their determination and resilience, which has become widely known across the world as the spirit of Ukraine. We're going to monitor the chat in the event you'd like to share questions or comments. And at the end of our session, we'll provide links to more information about how you can get involved personally in the mission to support Ukraine. Thank you all for being here with us today. And just a heads up, this is obviously a very active situation. We have guests on our call from different parts of Eastern Europe. Many of them are in Ukraine. Sometimes air sirens go off. If that happens, our guests have to leave, and they will not return until it's safe. If that happens, we'll go to another speaker, and we'll continue until we get through our content. So let's get started. First of all, welcome Yulia Vedchek and Daria Chernikova. I hope you and your families are safe and well, and thank you so very much for your strength and courage of coming on to share your story. So Yulia or Daria, I'll ask you first. Please tell us, how has this war impacted you personally?
The war, let me start here. So on February 23rd, late at night, I came to Lviv from Kyiv, where I had been staying quite a long time before that. And I chatted to my roommate, I chatted to Daria. We discussed the plan to go to the office the very next day. And then 7 a.m. the next morning, 24th of February, she just shook my shoulder. She said, like, it's war. And then 7:30 a.m., we were trying to fill the tank of the car in a huge line at the gas station. 9:30, we succeeded. 12 p.m., we got the message from the headquarters, from our company, requesting us to come to help at the reception as a part of the emergency team for a few hours. 6 p.m. we arrived at the office, and since I think this is the moment when everything has changed, because since that very moment, 6 p.m., 21st of February, I have been staying in the office 24/7, working as a member of emergency team.
So Yulia, if I understand right, you're in the office of your employer for the last 13 days.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
What are you doing now? How is life now? How are you adjusting?
Through all this time, we've seen and we've heard many firsthand stories, firsthand experiences from our employees, their families who, they woke up one day and they found themselves in the middle of war situation, which is not typical for Ukraine, because Ukraine is a peaceful country. And through all this time, what I've been mostly involved in was providing our relocated employees with comfortable working conditions. We set the safety and comfort of our employees as priority, and it enabled everybody else to maintain their lives and their everyday lives and business lives as usual. So it was everything. It was starting with food for kids and completing with some extra equipment from our IT support team, which has been working with us 24/7 at the office since that very moment. And through all this 12 12 days already, 12 days. We've been working with providing them with relocation resources, accommodation, food, transport to different cities in Western Ukraine, in Eastern Europe and everything. I've been working mostly equipping bomb shelter, equipping it with mats, with supplies, with working area, with good Wi-Fi, because our employees said that they didn't want to interrupt their business communications, calls, meetings with clients, even in case there's air alert. And of course, one of the main points for in my area, in my field, let's say, it was kids' room, because our employees, they were relocated suddenly with their kids, and we've got this amazing space where parents feel safe themselves, they feel that their kids are safe, and all of this has been contributing greatly to maintaining this, physical, mental, professional life on a high level, very balanced.
Wow, Yulia. So thank you very much for sharing. I can't imagine the how it must be to have to be in this environment and do all the things that you're doing. It's inspiring to me and to every one of our people watching this this live stream. Daria, would you like to share as well? I believe you have a story that connects into this.
Yeah, sure. So mostly I'm actually dealing with the transportation, the logistics of this process, and actually our region has become the place to shoulder the people, the families, the business, and actually like dozens of buses, cars, they're coming to the western part of Ukraine, seeking for the safe space, and actually we are helping them with it. So we're dealing with looking for the buses, for the proper accommodation, for the safe spaces, for them to maintain the working process, to maintain the business working, and that's what we do.
Daria, are you involved? So if I understand right, you're working. Is it part-time or are you working full-time right now? And how does volunteerism play into that?
Actually, it seems to me that the volunteering process have no time, like 24/7 since the 24th of February. I'm here working, sleeping, eating, and everything.
Wow. And Yulia and Daria, you two are in Lviv, is that correct?
Right.
And just I think our audience has probably seen enough of the map of Ukraine, but just to give orientation, Lviv is the furthest western most populous city, just about 50 miles, 80 or 90 kilometers to the east of the Polish border. Is that right?
Right here.
And have you always been in Lviv, or did you have to travel to Lviv during this conflict?
No, we live here.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Yulia and Daria, for sharing. My hearts go out to you and your families. Oleh Piskozub, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. I hope your family and you are safe. Please, I'd like to hear your story.
Michael, the war always starts unexpected. Regardless how prepared are you. The day before, I had a workshop with client in our office in Krakow, Poland. The next day morning, I was driving to the border to Ukraine to meet my wife and kids and calling my parents, convincing them to leave. Well, we all understand that the war actually started in February, but 8 years ago, 2014. We've been preparing our business continuity plan. We started updating this plan in early December 2021, when new indicators of escalation emerged. So some actions we implemented already prevent. We secured infrastructure, we secured network servers, we moved our hardware from possible military zone. But, nobody could expect, and we underestimated the risk that the Kyiv, capital of Ukraine, would be also affected and will be in the military zone. So hard to believe, still hard to believe.
Oleg, thank you. I believe you are now safe and your family is safe outside of Ukraine, is that right?
Yes, I'm full-time working in Poland. Yes, and that is also part of business continuity plan. which was very important for our company nowadays, because all the logistics, all the accommodation, the buses which start evacuation from endangered areas of Ukraine, they drove our families and their employees first to delivery centers in west of Ukraine. Next destination is Krakow, Poland. So I'm assisting this, I'm accommodating the families, and proud to say that we managed this. That was mission impossible, but we evacuated over 1,000, maybe even 1,200 employees out of endangered zones, and 300 employees already accepted here and accommodated in Polish offices. So we have a very good atmosphere here. We welcome families with kids in the office because, most of families come first of all with kids. We have a kids room also in Krakow, nanny, which sits with kids and watches them while their parents are working. And thanks to this preparation, thanks for prepared facilities which we had in advance in our Polish location, in locations, delivery centers west of Ukraine, we managed to maintain operations, company operations. They were nearly not interrupted, except maybe first 2 days of war in the cities delivery centers, which were affected by military conflict. But on Monday 28th, we already had 80% of our employees working full-time in, let's say, normal mode. And current ratio of employees which are fully operational is 97%. All are safe. They are working either in Poland or in Lviv or in other cities in Western Ukraine. Some didn't move. Everybody had a chance to do. But even those employees which are still located in Krakow and even in Kharkov or Sumy, they continue to do it. We are proud to this, and we are thankful for everybody.
I'm sensing a theme that in the midst of all of this and in this crisis that is unimaginable to many, that at the end of this, and when you call it, and you said it a few times, continuing business continuity, that seems to be at the center of your focus and the focus I've been hearing from others. Tell me a little bit about how has that been, because of the migration that's happening at mass into Poland. What is it like right now being in Krakow, which is a major city next to aside from Warsaw, for example? Tell us a little bit about the situation. How are you adjusting?
Okay. Business continuity, it's not just words, buzzwords. That's actually our work, because we are not fighting with guns, but we are fighting for our country, and we have to make sure that the economic is running. We have to support our country in this way. And that men are not leaving country, but it's very important for myself personally to give them confidence, because they send wives and kids to other countries, small kids, and somebody has to meet them, somebody has to accommodate them, to explain them how to, let's say, go to shop, to what to buy, which language to speak, what are the rules, and so on. So this is like, we have very feeling that we are becoming kind of family. Okay, maybe it's too strong word, becoming family, but we are becoming friends. Before we were co-workers, now we are becoming friends. And we have support everywhere here in Poland, because Poland and their citizens are very supportive to refugees from Ukraine. They meet them on the border. They send buses for free. They give foods. They give blankets. The government urgently prepares law about access to medicine, about access to schools, permissions for work for refugees which enter the border after 21st of February. So we feel that we are not alone, and that's good. That's very important.
Oleh, thank you very much for sharing. Wow. Best of luck on your continued journey in Poland and everything you're doing to keep us connected as a community and sharing your story, and also keeping Ukraine operating. You know, the theme of our call is really about being at the front line of making sure that the economy stays strong. As I heard on CNN, someone say that you can take buildings and factories, but you cannot take the spirit of the people. And you're an absolute exemplar of that. Oleh, thank you. Olesia, Martynova, would love to hear your story. Tell me first, please, how have things been in the last 13 days? How's family and how are you doing?
Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone. So I think my story is not very different from other stories in that respect. So I would like to start from February 23rd, because I think it was a life-changing moment for many of us, all of us that day. Most of us were at the office. And of course, there were long-lasting tensions between Ukrainian and Russia. And we were like stressed for some time, right? Because the situation was very hot. But I think no one at that time really believed that a full-scale invasion could take place, right? It was possible, however, and everyone had like BCP plans on the company level, on the personal level as well. However, still we didn't believe it was possible. And then at 6 a.m. next day, a friend of us called us and just was screaming, "Wake up, the war has started." And actually, it was a moment that divided our lives into before and after. I think the key reason for that is that safety was something most of us took for granted, right? So we never thought that we can be unsafe. So I'd say this is the key thing that changed.
Olesia, thank you. Where's family now? Is everyone safe?
Yeah, so currently we are abroad with the kids. My husband and my parents and a lot of our relatives are still in Ukraine. They are distributed across the country. Most of my family is located in Lviv, an area which is relatively safe. However, my sister is in Kyiv right now, so she stays there with her family. So, of course, this is something that keeps us awake at night. And even though I'm abroad, I still cannot sleep at night because I'm monitoring all those air attack alarms and that kind of stuff. But this is our new reality, and we need to understand how to live with this, right?
Wow. Olesia, thank you very much for sharing this and for your courage and what you're doing outside and inside of the country to support and defend democracy. You know, I have to take a pause because when I hear you mention that you have someone in Kyiv, I can't imagine what that feels like on a daily basis. And when I hear you say that you're up at night and not sleeping, and at the same time, you're on this call with us and you're sharing and you're going to work and you're volunteering. And it's just inspiring. It's an inspiring story. How have things been now? How are you adapting? Tell us a little bit about work life. What does that look like?
I'd say that most of us, even those who are in Kyiv, are working. I'd say that all of us are working even harder right now because all of us understand that the economical context is very important. So if we want to win this war, we need to support the country's economy. And this is what we can do at this forefront, right? Because our army, our husbands are fighting literally. And we can contribute as well. So it's very important right now for everyone to understand what he or she has to do at this situation and support as much as we can, right? So I'm not different in this respect. And of course, that's one of the reasons I'm here, right? Because all my family supported my decision to go abroad because they said, right, we need to support our business at the moment. This is what you personally can do in this situation. And that's what we are currently doing.
And where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Krakow, Poland. So first of all, I'd really like to say thank you to the company who makes this transition and this relocation as smooth as possible. Also, I'm half Polish. by origin, so it's easier for me probably to be here because I understand the language, I can speak, and it's definitely less stressful for the kids. We have 2 kids, they are 5 and 8 respectively, so they're also comfortable, they are safe, they can sleep at night, so of course it's easier again even for me to concentrate and work, but as I mentioned, my other relatives are in Ukraine, so my heart is with them.
Is it difficult, a language between learning Polish and Ukrainian, or is this very similar in a dialect?
It's similar to some extent, but as mentioned by Oleh, people here are very supportive, so I think it's not a problem for us to communicate, so it's not challenging.
Olesia, thank you very much for sharing, and I hope you and your family stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you,
Andriy, Oleh, you've got a story you'd like to share, and first let me start by saying I hope you and your family are well and safe. Please, how have things been for you at the start of this conflict?
Yeah, Michael, thanks. Family is fine and safe with me now in Poland as well since Saturday. And well, I'm as for my story, so I'm a native Kyivite. I was born in Kyiv and live in Kyiv on the 24th evening with kids by car. So I reminded myself that when I was 6 years old, we fled from Chernobyl tragedy almost 36 years ago, and it's similar but different. Yeah, so again, we need to get away from Kyiv as fast as possible. And that day, we 24th of February, we stayed to 40 kilometers to the west of Kyiv in our village house, where I was supposing to stay in case of any escalation in the east of Ukraine, but no one could imagine that it will start from Belarus, from Chernobyl side. And unfortunately, this house in the village is not far away from Hostomel airport. So when these Russian Black Hawks started flying above us, when smaller kids sleeping outside in a baby stroller and so on, of course, we made our decision really fast and took a car and tried to drive through villages, omitting the jumps because everything was in jumps to the western Ukraine. It was, of course, surely stressful, but thanks God everything went well, and we set for a week in western Ukraine. And the next day, when we came there and I had a chance to sleep, I made myself to start working because it was really hard, yeah, to switch to work back. But of course, I asked myself, what can I do? Yeah, what can I do in this situation? Of course, I have to keep working, and this will help Ukraine, of course.
Andriy, thank you for sharing. I know this is tough, and I can't imagine how it must have been to make the choices that you did, coming from an area that you spent a lot of time, or you may have grown up in. You know, and you said you know, you've gone through this much earlier in time in a different kind of conflict, and now here it is again. My heart goes out to you and your family, and I really pray that you continue on a successful journey, and we're going to be on the other side of this, and that goes to everyone on the call. I spent time in Ukraine between cities, Lviv, Kyiv, on a number of occasions. Kyiv is my second favorite. Probably, if you ask my wife, it's probably our favorite city at the moment. Before this happened, it still remains. Our spirit is still in Ukraine, and so yeah, Kyiv has a special place for me. You know, and just connecting to your story and hearing that you had to leave from there and going to the west and being confronted by this you know, these attacks is unimaginably difficult. Andriy, how are things now? So you've settled in. It sounds like you're keeping yourself busy. The question is it hard to work? Do you want to find yourself lost in your work right now and be focused on that, or are you volunteering, or do you have to kind of, use time with family, work, and volunteering in different ways? How is that working for you?
It's the most problematic is, of course, kind of all the logistics which we had to entertain to move from one place to another. But now we have moved to Poland. So as I have 3 kids, I was allowed to move outside. That's a law that men who are not allowed to get out from Ukraine because they may be taken to an army, but those who have 3 smaller kids can do that. So we moved out, and of course now we try to settle all our daily needs for me to work closer to 8 hours a day. And being frank there, so I'm working on a pre-sales and sales side. Being frank, we don't see big or any reduction in pipelines. Looks like our potential customers all the world round trying to support us with giving us a job, with not stopping any pre-sales or investment plans or any business plans with us. So this really keeps us loaded with work, and it's great. Yeah, so I see this does not stop, and no one is being really stopped by this war. Yeah, so business goes on. It supports very much. Yeah, and
as it should. That's actually one of our ways of supporting.
Yeah, exactly. So when we set our daily family things better, of course, we'll do our best to make any volunteering. We have cars here, so bring in moving goods people and so on. Of course, this will be also engaged here.
Andrei, thank you very, very much for sharing, and I wish you the best and continued safety. Thanks. Ivan Makarchuk, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Michael.
Yeah, how have you been? How are things since it started?
Thanks to God, now we are safe. We are in Lviv, and that's the most important, I have to say. Because the life has been divided into before and after the war. And I woke up to the sound of sirens and explosions in Kyiv, and this is what I will remember all my life, because it was 5 a.m. in the morning, and me and my wife, we were just sleeping, and I clearly remember that I was preparing for the first 2 classes in the morning with my students, and at 5 a.m. there was just one message to them, and that the war had begun. Please go to the shelter and take care of yourself. And it's the emotions is something that I can express to you, because you need to live them just to understand what does it mean. But now, thanks to God, we are safe in Lviv, and now we are not coming back to the real life, to the life as it was before, but we are trying, to try to live in the new circumstances. We can do what we do. In Ukraine, we have a few phones. Some soldiers with guns, they protect and defend the country in the first front. And we, as business, as Oleh mentioned, we are doing our best to keep the economy here, because we need to support the army and to support soldiers. And in these new circumstances, which we have, everyone has to learn how to live. We do our best. And nevertheless, the war which we live, and we protect our country, we protect the independence and sovereignty. We even carry on keeping the business and signing off the new agreements with the customers. And taking this opportunity, I would like to say a big thanks to all new customers, which we have signed out the agreements for the last few days.
Well, that's good news. That's good news that there's this continued Stand with Ukraine movement, especially in economic terms. I think it's really important that mindset remains focused, spirit remains high, and that the economy keeps moving, to your point. I have to ask, though, I was listening to you and Andrei, moving from Kyiv in a moment's notice. Maybe just tell our audience, what was that like? Do you have a home in Kyiv, an apartment? Are your belongings still sitting there? Are you able to move them? What does that look like?
Yes, I used to have the normal life in Kyiv because for the last 15 years, I have been living in Kyiv. This is one of my favorite cities all over the world. And all my life, my gym next to my home, my rental apartment, my private apartment with the current like construction, design and whatever. So all my thought was which furniture we have to buy, which kitchen, how we have to put everything there. So, but just once, in 1 minute, everything has ended. That's all. Because before, as I mentioned, the life was divided before the war and right after the war. Before that, 5 a.m. in the morning, the 24th of February, it was like the normal life. And right after, we left the apartment. We pick up just a bag with ID cards, and that's all. We moved to my parents-in-law, to my wife's parents. They live next to Kyiv, and we spent the whole day there. But very close to the evening, when the Russian soldiers' army occupied the Chernobyl station, atomic station, we decided to leave that city because it's a very small city next to Kyiv, and at the same time it's ridiculous, but it's very close to Belarus, and the attack was from that side. And we came back to Kyiv for one night. It was 25th of February, and for the last 2 weeks, at the moment, it was the last night which we spent in the home apartment. And in the morning, basically it took me 5 hours, up to 5 hours to get by car from Kyiv to Lviv. And that day, it took me 18 hours by car to get from Kyiv to Lviv. And now we are in Lviv, thanks to my colleague, thanks to all friends we have in Lviv. We have everything we need. But at the moment, there was just one bag, and that's all, nothing more. All your life spent back in Kyiv.
It really speaks volumes about the community of Ukraine and Poland, and the surrounding, other countries, Slovakia, Estonia, and others. They're just welcoming folks coming from Ukraine into their homes, people they've never met, and allowing and opening up their doors. It's setting a new precedence and allowing the community to come together, global community. Ivan, I hope you and your family remain safe. And every one of you on this call, thank you for sharing your stories. And I wish you continued health and safety. I'm going to, just for our guests on the call, one thing that I wanted to do is share, how do you get involved? So you hear the stories, you hear the strength. That's what I want you to remember from this. I've been working with Ukrainian organizations for 15 years and deeply involved in the last year and a half. I have staff in Ukraine that are also impacted by this war. So many people around the world are asking, how do you get involved? How can I help? There's lots of ideas. We wanted to prepare a summary of those important areas of need right now. So I've got 3 bullet points that our guests here, our speakers have shared with us. We've also asked our friends to put their links into the chat, and we'll also post this on LinkedIn on the event that you replied to in order to attend. So number 1, and I think you hear this theme. If you're not already a partner to Ukraine, or you are a partner already, stay with Ukraine or start a relationship with Ukraine. If you continue to buy Ukrainian goods and services, you keep the economy in motion. Everyone on this call came to share their stories. Yes, it was a struggle, but in 13 days, the people on this call are still in struggle, but they're finding ways to keep themselves busy, focus on the things that matter for family and their friends, and they're working. They're working to keep Ukraine going. I know personally, and having, like, as I say, been involved with Ukraine for some time, the last decade or more than a decade, there has been a really strong middle class building of sorts that has been happening in this country. It feels free. It feels there's freedom is everywhere. When I went to Kyiv with my wife, as I mentioned in the couple of times that I've gone, we never really had an itinerary because you didn't need to. In every direction was freedom and beauty and wonderful people, and that experience, we want to be able to share that with the rest of the world, but we want to restore that. So if you do business with Ukraine, you're directly supporting that continuity of the country. The next one is becoming an advocate for Ukraine. You know, the flag, it has a lot of meaning, and it's blue and yellow. There's very specific meaning. Blue represents freedom and independence, and yellow represents prosperity and the country's #1 natural resource, which is wheat. Share that flag. Let the world know that you stand with Ukraine, and keep the voice going. And finally, donation. Make a donation to help keep people safe and the military strong. We'll provide links in our follow-up, as well as a link to the replay of this, so you can share. And by the way, we're also hosting a series, as I mentioned earlier. The second of this series is happening next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, the same time as this one. We would hope you would attend and share with your friends, your network. The topic is going to change from session to session. The next topic is about CEOs' perspective, those that are running the organizations, making economic choices of how to manage their continuity in Ukraine. Thank you all very much for joining. Thank you very much to our guests on the call with me. We hope you continue being safe. And for now, glory to Ukraine, or Slava Ukraina. Thank you.
Heroям слава. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.